Welcome back to the Core Skills lecture series on grammar. In this one, we're going to talk about describing the future. We've talked about the past, how to use particular verbs to talk about the past. We've talked about the present, how to use particular verbs to talk about the present. This one will talk about using particular verbs to describe the future. It's conceptually a bit easier, this one. Talking about the future in English is actually a bit easier. Let's have a look. So, anyway, why do we need to do this? Why do you need to learn verbs? Well, verbs tell you when something happened, happen, or will happen. For example, let's say you have a dentist appointment tomorrow and you're telling your husband, wife, friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whomever about this dentist appointment. You will have to use a particular verb to communicate that. And you'll say, tomorrow, I will visit the dentist, or tomorrow I'm going to visit the dentist, or tomorrow I am visiting the dentist, or tomorrow I visit the dentist. It's interesting in English with verbs. Let's take a look. So we're going to look at this one at future verbs, how to describe future events. First little task, I just want you to identify the verb that refers to the future. That's all you have to do. What's the verb that refers to the future? Type it into the chat, please. It may have two parts. I'll give you a little hint. It has two parts. Cool, good stuff. So what's the verb that refers to the future here? Will receive, will receive. Blueberries will receive lots of media attention next week. Crazy sentence, there you go. That's the verb that goes, tell somebody it's going to happen. Next one, identify the verb that refers to the future. This one may have three parts. Just a little tip. Three parts, Shavani. Three parts, Antrikesh and Kawaljeet. Three parts, not two parts. The last one had two parts. Nope, there's only one. It is will have discovered. This is the reference to the future. Researchers will have discovered future, the causes of premature aging by 2029. This is not a verb. This does not refer to the future. It's this thing that does. One more, I think, maybe one more, maybe two more. Identify the verb that refers to the future. This one's a bit of a trick. Good, Ankita, that's right. That's right. This is a bit of a trick, this one, because the verb that refers to the present is sending. However, because we've used this time reference here, tomorrow, this one can actually refer to the future. For example, I am teaching now. I am teaching tomorrow. I am teaching next week. We'll look at that in a second, but this is a present verb, but it can be used to refer to the future as well. Last one, identify the verb that refers to the future. This one, for your interest, has four parts. Four-part verb. Good. Yeah. This is an interesting verb here. This is an interesting one. It's very much used in conversation, not really for writing. It's typically informal, used when you are speaking to somebody. I'm going to tell you about verbs. So, is going to send is the verb that refers to the future. Again, it's sort of present, but don't worry about this one. So, 6 future verbs. That's what we're going to look at. Some of them are more important than others though. So let's see the 6 ways to describe the future in English. Will send, is going to send, is sending, will be sending, will have sent, and will have been sending. Some of these, particularly this one, is used frequently, especially in academic writing. This one is used frequently in conversation. So number 2 and 3 are used frequently in conversation. Number 4, 5, and 6 are rare. They are rarely used, so don't worry too much about them. What you need to understand with these future verbs is that there are 2 categories. They do 2 things. They have 2 functions. One is to show a plan, and one is to show a prediction. Okay, so they're used for planning in the future, and they're used for predicting events in the future. What do I mean by that? So future verbs to plan and or predict. Look at this sentence here. It says, I'm going to take the IELTS tomorrow. We've got a plan. I'm going to take the IELTS tomorrow. Here's a prediction. I will get a 9 for writing. I will get an IELTS 9 for writing. That's a prediction. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm hoping. It's a prediction, but it's a future prediction. So I'm using a future verb. And here, I will take the IELTS tomorrow. It's a plan. Here, I'm going to take the IELTS tomorrow is a plan. Here, I will take the IELTS tomorrow is a plan. Here, I will get a 9 for writing. Here, I'm going to get a 9 for writing. Both are predictions. So they are the 2 categories. That's what these verbs do. They plan or they predict. And you can use the same verb in most cases to plan and predict. So let's look at future plans, making future plans with these verbs. So there are 4 verbs to make a future plan. I will take the IELTS tomorrow, plan. I'm going to take the IELTS tomorrow, plan. I am taking the IELTS tomorrow. It's a plan. I'll be taking the IELTS tomorrow. It's a plan. So here's will take, going to take, am taking, will be taking. All of these refer to a future plan. That's it, simple. Simple, simple, simple. What's the difference between the 4? Well, I will take the IELTS tomorrow is formal language, academic language. Not necessarily academic, but if you're writing an essay, an IELTS essay, a PT essay, in OET writing, you will use this as well. You will use this verb. In other words, this verb is the one that is used in writing because it's more formal. I'm going to take the IELTS tomorrow, and I'm taking the IELTS tomorrow is more informal and conversational. You do it when you're speaking. So when you're speaking, you rarely say, I will take the IELTS tomorrow. When we're speaking, we say, I'm going to take the IELTS tomorrow. I'm going to take the IELTS tomorrow. Or I'm taking the IELTS tomorrow. This is informal, conversational. This one, the 4th one, I will be taking the IELTS tomorrow, is conversational, but it has a focus on duration. I don't want you to worry about this one. It's so rarely used. What's used very frequently is this one. I will take the IELTS tomorrow, which is formal and academic. I'm gonna take the IELTS tomorrow. I'm taking the IELTS tomorrow, informal, conversational. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Prediction. So we've looked at plans. We use these verbs to plan something in the future. But there's another sense that they use, which is to predict something happening in the future, or predict that something will happen in the future. And there are 3 verbs used to predict. We can use the same one. I will receive a 9 for IELTS writing, prediction. I'm going to receive a 9 for IELTS writing, prediction. And this one, I will have received. This is a very rarely used future verb. I don't want you to worry too much about it. The difference is that when we use I will have received, it's a prediction, but it's focusing on when. For example, by this time next week, I will have received a 9 for IELTS writing. It's a prediction, but it's focusing on that date, on that time, on the when. So we've looked at plan and prediction now. Now I want you to tell me, I'm going to show you some sentences. They're numbers. They're numbered. I want you to tell me if it's a plan or a prediction. Plan or prediction? Good, Gaurav. Well done. Good. Looking good. Looking good. Kawaljeet, check your number 3 and 4, please. Good. Let's take a look. All right, so let's just have a look at these sentences first. Number 1, I will take the PTE next week. I will score 79s on each section. I'm going to take PTE next week. I'm going to score 79s on each section. I'm taking the PTE next week. Plans or predictions? Well, number 1 is a plan. I will take it next week. Something I will do, it's a plan. I will score 79s on each section. This is a prediction. I'm predicting. I don't know. I'm hoping. I'm guessing. I'm estimating. Number 3 is a plan. I'm going to take the PTE next week. Number 4 is a prediction. I'm going to score 79s on each section. And number 5, I am taking the PTE next week is always a plan, because you can't say I am going to score, I am scoring 79. No, it doesn't work. Number 5, in this sense, I am taking or I am teaching tomorrow is always a plan. It's always a plan. Good. So if you got that, well done. Now tell me which ones are formal and which ones are informal. Good, Kawaljeet. Well done. Ashu, check your number 1. Good, Shivani. Good stuff. Well done. Looking good. So we've looked at them and we know which one's a plan, which one's a prediction. But now we want to think about context. We want to think about formality. Which one would we use in our IELTS writing task 2 or task 1? And which ones will we use in IELTS speaking? Same thing for PTE. Which one of these verbs would we use in the essay or summarized written text? And which one could we use in a speaking? So there's a difference of formality and use. So number 1, I will take the PTE next week because it's a will take, it's formal. A will score, it's formal. I'm going to take informal, conversation. I'm going to score informal, conversation. Or this one, I'm taking the PTE next week, informal, conversation. Good, so if you got that, well done. Now I want you to identify the plan and it's formal. Identify the plan and it's formal. Using formal. Which one is the plan that uses formal language? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? The plan, not the prediction. Which one is the plan and which one uses a formal verb? Nice, looking good. So the plan, well, this one's a prediction. I'm going to score 79s. This one's a plan. I'm taking the PT next week, but that's informal. Let's look at number 4. I will score 79s. That's a prediction. I'm going to take the PT next week. This is a plan, but it's informal. So number 3 is a plan, and it's also formal use of the verb. This time, identify the prediction that's formal. 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. Pawinder, check yours, please. Sidhu, check yours. So you're right, you've got both. There are 2 predictions here, or 3. No, there are 2 predictions, but only one is using formal language. Let's have a look. So we want the prediction. So I'm going to score 79s. Good. And this one, I will score 79s, but we want the formal one, so it's number 4. I will score 79s on each section. This time, identify the plan or plans. There might be more than one that are informal. The informal language, and it's a plan. Might be more than one, by the way. Good, looking good. Good, Garav. Good, Smaranika. Riham. Mihul, check your number 1. It's supposed to be a plan, not a prediction. Good. Good, good, good. Let me just refresh my memory. So we're looking for the plan, and it's informal. So number 2, I'm taking the PTE next week. This is a plan, and it's using the informal verb, the one that we'd use in conversation. I'm going to take the PTE next week. It's a plan, and it's using the informal conversational speaking verb. Good. Here we go. Identify the prediction, and it's informal. Yes, good stuff. Everyone's getting them right, getting them right. Cool, good stuff. Yes, the prediction, well, we've got 2. I'm going to score 79s. I will score 79s. Which one's using the informal verb? Well, this is the formal verb, so it must be number 1. I'm going to score 79s on each section. Good stuff. Let's recap what we've learned, because verbs for the future, they're not difficult to understand in terms of meaning. Like when we use present verbs in English, they have meanings like I live in Melbourne, I am living in Melbourne, I have lived in Melbourne. They have different secondary meanings. The future verbs don't really have those secondary meanings. Well, they kind of do, but it's easier. One's a plan, one's a prediction, that's it, depending on the sentence it's in, depending on the surrounding words. So that's pretty easy to understand. The only thing you need to understand about these future verbs is the formality, and you need to choose correctly depending on what you're doing. If you're speaking to someone, you can use the informal ones, it's fine, but when you're writing an essay, you want to use will. So we learned that there are 6 future verbs. Here they are. Will send, is going to send, is sending, will be sending, will have sent, will have been sending. We learned that number 6, 5, and 4 are extremely rare. We learned that number 3 and 2 are used in conversation because they're informal. And we learned that number 1 is common and it's used in formal academic writing. We also learned that with these future verbs, there are 2 main categories. There's a category when you talk about a plan in the future, and a category when you're predicting something will happen. So if we're talking about plans, I will take the IELTS tomorrow. I'm going to take the IELTS tomorrow. I'm taking the IELTS tomorrow. I'll be taking the IELTS tomorrow. Predictions, I will receive a 9 for IELTS writing. It's the same verb, but just in this particular context, in this sentence, it now becomes a prediction. Or I'm going to receive a 9 for IELTS writing. And this rare one that focuses on when, by this time next week, I will have received a 9 for IELTS writing is also a prediction. That's all. Cool. So we've just nailed future verbs, which is good. Right, let's do a little Q&A. If you have any questions, type them into the chat. Gaurav, can we use formal in conversation, like will? It's very rare that you will use will in conversation. For example, let's say I'm talking to a colleague at work, and I say, tomorrow I'm going to the cricket. I'm going to go to the MCG to watch the cricket. I would not say to my colleague, tomorrow I will go to the MCG. We very rarely, if ever, use will in conversation. Yeah. The only time we use will in conversation or in speaking is when you make a spontaneous decision. For example, let's say the phone's ringing at home, you say, I'll get it. Or let's say your friend needs to be picked up and somebody says, oh, somebody's got to pick up Patrick from the train station. You say, oh, I'll get him. That's the only time we use will in conversation. More often, almost exclusively, we say, I'm gonna. Ankita, in PT reading, which one uses formal or informal? It'll usually be formal. Parwinder is informal. It's the verb type, not the particular verb. Smaranika, can't formal be used in conversation? Not really. It sounds odd. It sounds strange. If you're talking to someone and you say, tomorrow I will go to the beach, it's not right. It's just not common. We say, tomorrow I'm going to the beach, or tomorrow I'm going to go to the beach. Sounds more natural. Reham, in speaking test, what should I say? Gonna, going to, or will? I would say gonna. In IELTS speaking, if you're speaking to the examiner, and let's say something's come up about the future, she asks you about what are you going to study in the future? You say, well, it depends. IELTS is a little bit different because it's a bit unnatural, but you won't be penalized for saying I'm going to. Should probably say I'm going to study mathematics in the future. I'm going to. So when you're speaking to your friends, you'd say I'm gonna study mathematics. But when you're speaking to the IELTS examiner, probably better to say, I'm going to study mathematics. Bhargavi, in general writing, IELTS general writing, should we use informal, verb, or formal? It depends on the context, Bhargavi, because you have 3 possible letter types. You have the informal, semi-formal, and formal. So with the informal, you can use those informal future verbs. With the formal letter, you should use the formal verbs. And with the semi-formal, you should use the formal verbs as well. Billy, that's neither informal or formal. Bhargavi, in PT speaking, I could not think of using these future verbs. Can you give me some examples if we have to use it? Okay. Let's say you're doing describe image for the PTE, okay? And there's your graph. And on the x-axis, it's about the future because it's about, I don't know, going to Mars. And it starts at 2020 and goes up to 2025. And there's some sort of graph. Or let's say the graph's about GDP in China, right? And it's going up. So you'd say GDP in China will rise by 15% or is going to rise. You can use formal or informal in that sense because it's a bit different. It's a task for a language test. So it doesn't matter. You can say is going to rise or will fall, or yeah, you're going to use those two, is going to or will, because it's a prediction. Yes, Kawaljeet. Formal for writing and informal conversation. Correct. Bhargavi, I understand, but how about general essay writing? Okay, essay writing will always use the formal verbs. Okay? Doesn't matter if it's IELTS general or IELTS academic. If you're writing an essay, you always use will. Will. Yes, that's all. Cool. I hope that was helpful. Yeah, if you have any, yeah, that's all. If you have any questions or comments or anything, type them in the chat below in YouTube. If you're a free member, I strongly recommend that you upgrade your account. If you're not a free member yet, I suggest you become a free member of e2language.com. There are lots and lots of benefits to joining this course. Cool. Now I've lost my mouse cursor. I have absolutely lost my mouse cursor. Maybe my mouse is dead. I'm just gonna have to stay here. Ankita, you can't make a free account. There it is, got my mouse. Cool. All right, see you guys. Bye-bye.